Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General McCurry.
Got an AAR comment to check the MEF for wind advisories for the ribbons and the alarm systems on cars nearby. So thanks everyone for being here at the home of Army Aviation. Mayor Blankenship, Mayor Borland, Mayor and Mrs. Schieffer, General Curran, Generals Royer, Kenyon, Hennies, Mr. Daniels, Mr. Bowery, and Representative Marquez, friends and family of Army Aviation, it's a beautiful day here. Not only because we're opening this facility, but because it's the 41st birthday of Army Aviation as a separate branch of the Army. Special thanks to Colonel Howell's family members that are here. Miss Sandra Howell Key, his sister, and Mr. Joe Otwell, Mr. Doran Scott, nephew and Sandra's son, and his wife, Mrs. Debbie Scott, Mr. John McClelland, nephew, and his spouse, Mrs. Patricia McClelland, Mr. John McClelland, grandnephew and spouse, Miss Laura Cranage, Mr. Carl Stevens, nephew-in-law, and his spouse, Miss Carolyn Lane, Mrs. Karen Stewart, who's a grandniece-in-law and spouse, Mr. Michael Stewart, and Master Jake Brown, the great-grandnephew-in-law. Let's give the family a round of applause. Some of our distinguished guests participated in a soft opening of sorts of this facility last November. As Mr. Bowery mentioned, we felt we needed to do this to get it up and running as soon as possible, to expose the senior members of our local communities to it, to maximize the benefit of this facility. But we also felt that a facility of this stature would be best recognized and highlighted with the backdrop of the Army Aviation Branch birthday celebration. So here we are, holding the official grand opening of this impressive building, soon to be the William A. Howell Training Support Facility. It will be named in honor of Lieutenant Colonel Retired William A. Howell, a distinguished soldier, aviator, and the first civilian curator of the Army Aviation Museum here at Fort Novosel. Colonel Howell served valiantly for 26 years on active duty in World War I and Korea. Like many early aviators, he started his distinguished career in the artillery, although he fought in World War II as an infantry officer, fighting through North Africa and Italy. After World War II, he attended Army Flight School, and once the Korean War commenced, he was sent to help build Korean Army Aviation. In 1957, he was appointed the first commander of the Executive Flight Detachment with the responsibility of transporting the President of the United States. Throughout the next 5 years, Colonel Howell would not only be responsible for the transportation of the President, but he ushered in many of the policies and procedures that the Flight Detachment still uses today. He achieved several firsts in aviation, becoming the first to land a helicopter in places like Rome, Madrid, and Lisbon. By the end of his career as an Army aviator, he'd achieved qualification in 20 different aircraft, fixed and rotary wing, and had flown over 5,000 hours. Our Army Aviation Museum was officially established in 1956. However, for a decade, it was a little bit of a pickup team making it work. Securing historic artifacts, restoration, safeguarding, and accountability were left up to a small group of dedicated volunteers. And in October of 1966, the branch obtained authorization for a full-time civilian curator, and Lieutenant Colonel Retired Howell was appointed. As the curator, William Howell set the museum off on its own path that ultimately brought us here today. In 2016, the design of this facility was completed, and its construction began in September 19, and today we officially open its doors. I'd like to personally recognize Mr. Jack Daniels in the front row of the audience here, retired senior executive servant of our Army and a retired officer in his own right, who was instrumental in helping us get the funding for the magnificent facility you see in front of us. The TSF is a state-of-the-art climate-controlled environment that ensures the long-term survival of the aviation machines and the preservation of the technologies and the macro artifacts mentioned by Mr. Bowery. Many of the artifacts and displays, some of which were only good ideas at the time, had limited development. And then when you fast forward many years, you see them in today's technology. Those ideas became possible. So it's important for us to preserve them, preserve those ideas, and without a doubt, this facility will help us do that. Additionally, it's laid out so visitors, soldiers and civilians, can see the evolution of the airplane and the helicopter and supporting systems such as engines, weapons, sighting systems, and much more that are a part of our history. People from all walks of life and every creed and representative of all the vibrant traditions of our nation come and see the vestiges of Army aviation history here. But also, our soldiers who are training at Fort Novosel, now and in the future, will use this building to learn about the aviation heritage, culture, and the sacred trust with the soldier on the ground. Last year, the Aviation Center initiated Operation 83, which drives additional cohesion and rigor into initial training and implements heritage colors for each flight school class. As a part of this effort, legacy leaders and heroes from across the decades, some of whom flew many of the displayed aircraft, emphasize the importance of setting a foundation of technical and tactical competence to uphold that very trust. The TSF will play a role in making that happen. This building has a classroom dedicated to teaching historical studies to the new aviation students as part of their professional development. Our aviation students must know from where they came and the service and sacrifice of those who came before them. This initiative drives that and helps to strengthen our profession. Again, thank you for attending this ceremony and sharing this special occasion with us. The William A. Howell Training Support Facility is an outstanding addition to the Army Aviation Museum Complex and the Aviation Center of Excellence, helping to teach history and culture to all who see it. This will defend, above the best, Fly Army.
Please direct your attention to your right for the official building dedication. We will now reveal the building. We now invite Major General McCurry, Mr. Bowery, and Miss Sandra Howell Key, sister of Colonel Howell, escorted by Bob Mitchell, Aviation Museum Director, to move forward for the ribbon cutting, marking the official opening of the William A. Howell Training Support Facility. Everyone, please join us for a countdown for the ribbon cutting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join in singing Above the Best and the Army Song.